Hello everybody, hopefully you're all well. Today we're going to be making a really dispiriting warehouse simulator. So the idea being our player is going to be waking up one day to discover that they now have a job moving boxes in a warehouse. The aim of this game is going to be our player will be putting boxes into sorting bins, and that's how the game is going to play. Basically, it's an excuse to teach you how awesome socket interactors are for virtual reality. There's lots and lots of steps broken into this two-part series, but I'm going to try and keep them really small. But here's the basic rule of thumb. Downloading, decompressing and open the VR template, which is going to be the core of your own project, and remember that has to go into the source and repos folder. Experimenting with the demo scene for those who haven't had a chance to play with it yet, importing a cardboard box, using the sample scene, and making our cardboard box grabbable, making the cardboard box into a prefab, which is a core skill you'll be needing an awful lot, using socket interactors to socket the cardboard boxes. Socket interactors, love them, they're brilliant. Once you've seen why, you'll understand hopefully. And then using interaction layers so only the correct item can be socketed into the correct socket. We're going to be using this so only the cardboard box can go into the storage bin. But you can well imagine this would be useful to say only the right key card can go to the correct coloured door, for example, or only the right item performs the correct action or something like that. Part 2 is going to be adding sound effects, adding points, removing points if you remove the box from the bin, making the boxes spawn in based on a timer, displaying the current number of points via some kind of user UI, user interface, and then adding detail, basically giving you a chance to knock yourselves out. This is hopefully going to be an under 1 hour tutorial. We'll see how we go. Let's rock and roll. So first things first, the template should look like this. You can find the template on the Moodle page, or the preferred location will be on the X drive under Computing and D-Day. In the D-Day folder you'll also find the Oculus.bat. If you haven't yet opened the Oculus software, and if the Oculus software is playing up, remember you use Oculus.bat to run that script. Close Oculus, reopen Oculus. And that's where it is. Just as a friendly reminder as well, make sure that under your settings, which you're logged in, under general, you're trusting unknown sources and the OpenXR runtime is set. If that isn't set, you're going to need to call one of us over and we'll be able to set that for you. We have to log in as admin to set that, but hopefully it will be done. First thing you do, once you download this package, you download it from the X drive, which actually means copying it, so right click, copy it, move it to your source and repos folder. So again, my source and repos folder, I will find it on the C drive, I'll find it under users, find you, find your source and repos folder. Remember, if your source and repos folder doesn't exist yet, you need to open Visual Studio and sign in to create your source and repos folder. Paste the project in there, that will still be compressed. Once it's in there, give it a click, and then you can extract. The extraction process will turn it from a zip into a file that we can use, and then you extract it. That will take a minute or two. Probably best to do that and then carry on watching the tutorial, but choice is yours because that will take a minute or two. Once that's finished extracting, you open it through the Unity Hub. So you will open a project, find it in your users, source and repos folder, and here's the really important bit. Zipping something puts a folder in a folder. So if I wanted to double click into this, in some cases you may find a folder within a folder. If you get to this view, you can just click open, but in some instances what you'll instead get is another folder inside of that, which you'll need to click into and click open. Long story short, this is where you should now be. Your project unzipped and open into your source and repos folder. By pressing play, this should work in VR. There shouldn't be any troubles with this. Once your headset is connected, remember Quest users, it's a little bit more complicated for you, but you should be able to move around with the left thumbstick. You can see my controllers were waking up then. Move around with the left thumbstick, turn with the right thumbstick. If I press down on the right thumbstick, that performs a 180-degree turn. And you should get the vignette, which is the black visual effect appearing whenever you move. Today we're keeping it simple, and I'm going to give you a chance to experiment with the inbuilt stuff if you haven't had a chance to yet. In the samples folder you will find the XR interaction 2.5.1 starter assets, and in there you've got demo scene. Have a couple of minutes of playing with the demo scene for me. Get used to the idea that you can teleport around in this scene by holding the left thumbstick to allow you to move. Right thumbstick, once it's waking up, will allow you to teleport to a location, and you can interact with the interactables that are there. You can fiddle with the UI. You can see what happens with the gaze interactors, but the main thing that's really juicy about this is the new grab features and climbing features which are included in this template. Have a minute, have a play with it, but that's the demo scene. Once you've had a go with the demo scene, we're going to go back to the starting scene. You can go back to the assets folder, and then in the scenes folder you will find sample scene, which is our starting template, which is what we're going to be using today. Told you it'd be quick. We're going to be importing a cardboard box which is going to go on our table, and then we're going to have a bin by the side of the table which will allow us to put our cardboard boxes in. Game object, no, that's wrong. Window, asset store will take you to the asset store. Alternatively, you can just Google it. Make sure you're signed in through the Unity Hub first. There you go, and you can see I'm clearly signed in. If you give us a search for cardboard box, and only want 3 assets, this is the one we're interested in, but it ultimately doesn't matter. This is the one I've tested and know works, from Crow Art. Give that a click. Give it a download, import, whatever the button asks for. It's some cardboard boxes, you know. That should take you back to the package manager inside of Unity. You'll be able to download it via this button here, and once you've downloaded it, you'll be able to import it into your package. And then click import. And what you'll find is in the asset space, now you've got the Crow Art folder, which contains a series of prefabs, which contains some cardboard boxes. Well, we're rattling through these, aren't we? The cardboard box, by default, I've just dragged the left one, which is cardboard box 1. You've also got cardboard box 2. This one just comes with a rigid body already attached. It doesn't matter which one you use, because the next step is going to make it grabbable. Again, this is so easy, blink and you'll miss it. So, using the sample scene, making the cardboard boxes grabbable. Are you ready for how complicated this is? With the box selected, add a component. We want an XR grab interactable. Boom, your object's now grabbable. It will also add a rigid body component if it doesn't already have one, because remember, rigid body is what gives it realistic, rigid physics behaviours. You've also got the grab interactable properties, and we're going to spend a few sessions talking about how you can edit them. For today, we're keeping it nice and simple. I'm going into play mode. Headset's on, we've got a nice big cardboard box in front of us. We should be able to grab from distance. We should be able to grab locally, and we should be able to grab and toss it on the floor. That's all well and good, but I think that cardboard box is a little bit too big for what we need. I just punched my wall trying to use it. So what we're going to do is customize this cardboard box, because it's now got a rigid body and it's now got a grab interactable, which has made it different to the original one that came in with our scene. What we're going to do is turn this cardboard box into its own new prefab. To do that, grab cardboard box 1 from the hierarchy, drag and drop it into the asset space, and it will ask, do you want to create an original prefab or a variant? We want to create an original one, and this original prefab has now got the rigid body and the grab interactable, which means if I made lots of them, they've all got those properties. What we want to do though is tell each of the prefabs to be smaller. So I'm going to use the scale tool. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, about half the original size, something like that, about 0.5. Don't have to be precise with it. And then I'm going to override all the other cardboard boxes, because if I made a new one, it will still be the original size. I want this one to tell all of the cardboard boxes to be its size. To do that, we're going to override all the other cardboard boxes, and we can either revert it to be what it was previously, or we can apply those properties to all other cardboard boxes. Let me just show you how this works. I'm just going to put some other boxes in there, but if I override and apply those properties will now be inherited by any other cardboard boxes that are of that prefab type. Really, really powerful tool. So that's making it grabbable, and that's also making it into a prefab. Told you we'd get through this really quick. Now we need to use socket interactors, which are the most powerful tool you will encounter in terms of VR production. I'm going to put a socket interactor on the end here, and we're going to have it so if we put this box in there, it will socket. To do that, we're going to go to Game Object, XR and Socket Interactor, which is here. A socket interactor is invisible, so it's actually put it in the middle of nowhere. So to make it somewhere we can see where we are, right clicking on the word transform and resetting it, and that will put it at the base of the player's feet, because the player is in the point of origin of your scene, 0, 0, 0, and resetting it puts it to the point of origin. I'm going to use the move tool, move it across, move it up, and move it onto the end of the table. Move your camera around to make sure it is roughly on the end of the table, because without a shadow it's really hard to see where it is. But you can see it's roughly on the end. You can scale it if you wanted it to be bigger, and this collider, this sphere collider, what that means is when anything touches that sphere collider and that is a grabbable object, it will socket into it. Think about how useful this would be for collecting evidence in a murder mystery game, or think about how useful this is for putting keys into locks or something like that. Let me show you how good that is. I'm going to go and grab this, and as I move it over to the socket, you get an icon to represent. Yeah, if you let go, that's where it would go. So if I let go of the grab button, it goes in the socket. If I pick up the other object, you'll notice that it's now going red. I can't put that one in the existing socket because something's in the way. If I move that one out and then put that one in, you can see that things can go in and out of sockets really quite nicely. It's a very, very powerful tool. Let's say though, you had two things in your game you didn't want to go in that socket. I'm just thinking of what we could put in there really quickly. Let's just make a really simple, I don't know, cylinder. Maybe this represents a battery or something. I don't know. Maybe this warehouse also sells batteries. I just got to put a material on it so it looks a little bit more battery-like. There, I've put the silver material on it. At the moment, we would be able to put our cardboard boxes or our battery into that zone. However, we haven't yet made this icon, this battery, a grabbable object. You notice I can't grab it. Remember how easy that is to do that? If you'd like to pause the video and do it yourself, please do so. Otherwise, we're going to add a XR grab interactable, and that will also apply the rigid body. All I want to demonstrate here is that socket interactors don't care what you put in them by default. So we can put this battery in there, or we can put anything else in there. And off the battery rolls off the table. But what we want to say in our game is no, you only get points for putting the cardboard boxes in the socket. So we can change our socket interactor by changing its interaction layer mask. You may not be able to see the whole word, so I'm just going to stretch that across so you can see the whole word. Interaction layer mask. Currently it accepts everything, but what we're going to do is create a layer. This is very familiar when you've been making tags. Do you remember when you make tags and you make a tag and then you assign it? Same deal here with interaction layer mask. They're different but behave similarly. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to click on this little drop down for interaction layers. I'm going to create a new layer called Cardboard. I'm going to spell it with a capital C just because I think it looks nicer. So Cardboard. If I then click the socket interactor, I can now say that this socket interactor accepts nothing. It's important you click nothing first. So accept nothing apart from cardboard. Clicking nothing turns all the ticks off everything, saves you having to tick every one individually. Now what you can do to each of your cardboard boxes, either one at a time or by modifying the prefab, you can click into the XR Grab interactable component. Again, I've got the prefab selected down here, or you can select them both, it will have the same effect. With the prefab selected, I'm going to change its interaction layer mask to nothing apart from cardboard. Because I've changed the prefab, if I make new cardboard boxes, they will have the rules, but the old one in the scenes automatically do. That's a new feature of Unity. Oh, that's useful. I thought I had to override it, but no, it just did it automatically. Anywho, because this battery icon is in the default layer mask, but not the cardboard, it shouldn't be able to go into the socket, is basically what we're expecting here. As always, let's see if that works. You shouldn't even acknowledge, so the socket isn't even saying that it's there. Whereas for the cardboard boxes, hopefully, it will. One of the interesting things about changing the layer masks that I hadn't anticipated, but I'm pleased we can show it, is obviously this is grabbable, because the controllers as well, or the actual interactors on there, also need to be told to interact with this new cardboard layer that we've created, or interaction mask. That's why I couldn't pick the cardboard box up a second ago. So to do this, really simple, we're going to click in the XR interaction setup, go into the XR origin, XR rig, go into the camera offset, and in there you've got the left and right controllers. So I'm going to click on the left controller. This looks a bit complicated, but don't worry about it. The left controller, if I click into that, also has poke, direct and ray. I'm going to click on the ray and I'm going to control click the direct maybe I've got to do this one at a time. But you'll notice here the ray interactor only interacts with things on the default layer, but we need to make it also talk to cardboard, otherwise it won't be able to interact with it. So I'll need to do that for both of them. So I need to do that for the ray interactor, which is the thing that grabs from distance, and the direct interactor. Notice that only affected the left controller. We need to do the same for the right as well. Ray interactor also talks to cardboard layer, and the direct interactor also talks to cardboard. So you'll need to do that for those four things, under the right controller and the left controller, two each. Let's see if that works, because as you'll hear me say an awful lot, always test, never trust. Can I now pick up the cardboard box? Good. Now we can socket it, but we can't socket it. Oops, socket it because I left it too close. There we go. So far, so good. Most people's VR games will involve something like that in some way. So we've used socket interactors to socket the cardboard box into, and we've also made it so we can only use interaction layers, so only the cardboard box can be socketed, and we've also solved the problem of making it so the cardboard boxes can now be picked up, which we changed a second ago. That could be the fastest tutorial I've ever done. That's part 1. Come back shortly for part 2.